Alright guys, so today I'm going to be showing you this mini Planet Namek single figure action figure diorama that we created for our customer Zach as a commission. I believe Zach's in Missouri. He is a big Dragon Ball Z fan, and one of his favorite arcs is the Namek saga, which is also one of my favorite, well, is my favorite arc in Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, or Super. So he is a pop collector, and he asked me to create a Planet Namek diorama for, I think it's a Super Saiyan Goku battle damaged pop. And I don't have any pops, so I have Piccolo in the diorama, who is SH Figure Arts, the original figure in the line, and he fits in here pretty well. I know the pops, of course, are not exactly 1/12 scale, which is what I normally do, and this is a 1/12 scale figure, but his pop will definitely fit in this diorama the way that he needs it to. So I'm going to go ahead and take Piccolo out of here and then show you guys some of the different components of this diorama. Okay, so this piece is a modular piece. It has one base piece and then two of like the upper rock formation pieces. It has a Namek tree that comes out that has a 3D printed stand just with a dowel rod, and then I think that I forget what this is, just a foam ball that I got. But these two come off, and then it is held together with 3D printed clips, and it has a foam core background that is directly printed on the foam board. So it's the sturdy foam board that we've been using in our city rooftop dioramas. So with this piece, the rocks on these two pieces are permanent, but other than that, you can take these out, and if you wanted to rearrange them, use some of them, not all of them, take the tree out, whatever you want to do, you can do that. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces with this diorama, and then the clips as well. Let's talk about the carving of this piece and how I got this realistic rock look just through carving. We'll talk about the paint in the next segment. But so I have a Proxxon hot wire foam cutting table, and it works out really, really well for me. The first Planet Namek that I did over a year ago, I carved completely by hand, which is definitely possible. And I think there are some, artists out there like Lawless who do most of their rock carving by hand, and that is kudos to them, because that's extremely difficult, and it's not my best skill. So I'm using the hot wire foam cutter table to get this rock effect look, and basically what I'm doing is just trying to have some randomness to the way that the rocks form, because they wouldn't look identical. A lot of times I see other diorama makers making terrain, and they have a good sense of how the rocks should look, but they don't texture the rocks the right way so that everything looks flat. So what I do is I just take a ball of tin foil and I try to push in on where the cracks are. Sometimes I'll even take a rock and do that. And I also have a clay sculpting tool that I'll use to push in the cracks just to make them more defined, because if these were really cracks separating the rocks, it wouldn't just be a straight flat across look. There would be some texture to it and some unevenness. So that's how I formed the outer edge of this. Then I should have mentioned the inner parts, the cracks, are made with an X-Acto knife, and then I just press them in like I just described. So then I wanted to have this, since this backdrop was only I think 8 inches tall, I wanted to make sure that the piece didn't come up too high, so that if a figure's on here, the backdrop, the figure's not taller than the backdrop. So for this piece here, I kind of just took a 1-inch piece of XPS insulation foam and sliced it in half, and then did the same kind of thing that I just described here. And then I just hot glued on some permanent rocks just to give it more intrigue. Like I said, trying to make it look more realistic. So if it was just one layer with nothing on top of it, I don't think that would be as realistic as I would like. And then the last piece, this is also the 1-inch foam. I did the same kind of thing, and again, glued on those rocks permanently. So that was the way that this all kind of got carved up. Okay, so I want to show you guys what the setup was on the paint for this piece. So for this one, I did not blackwash the rocks, the base piece, because it was going to be a lighter kind of tan to match the colors that are in the backdrop, the printed backdrop. So what I used instead of my normal black paint to wash this one was this apple barrel nutmeg brown. So that was the starting point for all of the rock pieces to this. Then the next thing that I did, and that was just, straight up painted it, covered all the cracks, all that kind of stuff. Then the next color that I used was a dry brushing of this color, which I don't know if you guys can see that, if that's in focus or not, but it's Anita's paint there. I used that to dry brush the first layer on top of the rocks to get it a little bit lighter. And then the final color for the rocks was this color here, which is Rivera Tan. So that is most of what you're seeing here. That's that color. So I think I dry brushed 2 or 3 layers of that, and I went pretty light for those dry brush layers. So those are the rocks. Then the next part of this, of course, was getting the grass in place. And Namekian grass is this particular color, which is bluish. So the flock that I normally use, which is the term for the grass, is this particular flock, the Woodland Scenics, and it is green like regular grass. So I had to figure out how I was going to, get that Namekian grass color. So first thing I did before I move on to the painting is to get the flock to stay on there. You just put a layer of Mod Podge down where you want the grass to stay, and then you sprinkle the blended turf on top of that. And then what you do is you get a water bottle and you mix in some Mod Podge with some water, create a kind of a glue solution, and you spray that and you douse the flock in that solution, and then you have to let it dry. And you might do that a couple of times to make sure that you get a solid paintable kind of surface for that grass area. So once that was done, I did a couple of different things with the paint on that. So I took a brush and I doused the brush in the paint, the first color, which was this Anita's Royal Blue. And basically what I did was I just took the blue and I dabbed the flock, because if you were to just paint it normally, you're going to knock some of it off. So I just kind of like dabbed it across until I got coverage that I was happy with. Then once that was done, I did the same thing, but a lighter amount of application of this blue watercolor from Anita's. So I did the same thing there. And then the final piece that I did was I used an even lighter amount of this deep blue sea color by Anita's. And so once that was done, I was satisfied with the way that the colors looked, and got the product that you see here. Okay, so the last piece of this that I want to talk about, because I've gotten questions on it before, is the backdrop. And this was an image that I found royalty free on Google Images. It was a while ago when I first created my Planet Namek diorama, back, the first time when I did the DTOF size. So I had that file, and so I just basically went into Photoshop, found a portion of that larger file that I thought would be good for this backdrop. Had a couple trees in it, had some good background mountains and a little bit of the water, and I just sized it to, I think this is 8 inches by 5 inches if I'm not mistaken. And then I took it to my local print shop and told them I wanted it printed on foam board, and of course I have the 3D printed parts to keep it in place so that stays mounted onto the rocks without damaging them. So that's how I got this background made.